just good win, a lot of positives tonight, and, quick turnaround, so have to be ready to do it again on Sunday.
Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Obviously, the past couple days, you guys have been talking about bringing the intensity and playing together. In light of all that, how would you assess your defense tonight and the way you guys played at that end?
I thought our defense was really good, and it goes without saying. You can look at a lot of things here statistically. Forced 18 turnovers, which is drastic. 5 the last game. So to do that, that's more typical of what we do. Held them to 40%. So that's obviously a lot of positives in that regard. But the activity is so take the stat sheet out of it. The activity, the energy that we brought. A lot of guys contributing, doing the right things, getting to the right spots on the floor. So that's, as you go through the game, in each game, that's what you need is the energy first, knowing your assignments, and then being able to, like, in an environment like this, communicate exactly what needs to be done to your teammates. And I thought we did a nice job with a lot of those things.
Eric Name, ESPN Milwaukee. Brad just called Thon and Deli's energy contagious. What do you think of their performance off the bench tonight?
Yeah, I would agree. And that's, again, I think a lot of guys brought energy, but they definitely brought it when they entered into the game. They continued to, make an impact on the game across the board. Obviously, Thon with a lot of blocks, Deli with his intensity on the ball. Again, talk about the things that guys do, communication, getting to the right spots on the floor. I would agree. They both played very, very well.
Can you expand on what Don was able, Gennaro Armas with AP, can you expand on what Don was able to give you, especially, obviously, with his link, he's done it in spurts this year, but to do in this spot?
Yes, and that's, with him tonight specifically, he not only did, the blocks, the energy, hit some big shots, hit a big 3 from the right wing. I believe it was around 14 at that time. Made a lot of plays on both sides of the ball that are critical in terms of just winning the game, in terms of hustle plays. As, again, keep mentioning the blocks, but those are plays where he's running from behind sometimes. He wasn't always there meeting somebody. He was just continuing to stay in the play. And so that energy, that activity, all the things that he brought on both sides are important, and we're going to need for him to do it again.
Coach Mark D'Amico, Celtics.com. You talked about energy in each of your first 3 answers. How much of that energy came from the environment that your players played in for the first time during this series and being at home and in front of your own fans?
Well, sure, but I think the one thing, no question. I mean, our fans were great. They always have been. We're going to need them again in Game 4, and we know that they will be. But at this time, you should always, there's a level of excitement anytime you step into a playoff game, regardless of where it is. There's always going to be energy and intensity and focus, based on the fact that it is a playoff game. So tonight, the crowd was great. I think, sure, you could say that it helped, but I think you also have to look at our guys, and that they dug within and brought that as well, like the passion, enthusiasm, excitement that each guy brought to the game.
Charles Gardner with the Boston Globe. Jabari wanted more minutes. He got more minutes. He played much better. He had the energy, the stuff you were talking about yesterday at practice. What did he do, and how important is it to you to just have that on a continuing basis?
He played very well, and like you said, we talked about initially. I brought it up obviously as a group thing. You talk about Thon and Deli as well being guys that impacted the game. Jabari did the same thing in regards to came in, didn't try to force anything, allowed the game to come to him. There was a rhythm we had a good rhythm to the game, and everybody that stepped on the floor just continued that. And so for Jabari, those are the things that we've talked about. Those are the things that we need. We'll need the effort, energy, the hustle plays, the decisions and the plays that he can make on the floor. He's not just a guy that has to score for us. He can make a lot of plays. He can pass it. We need everybody to rebound the ball. So he played very well.
Andrew Wagner, State Journal. Rozier has been kind of a headache through these first two games, but tonight you guys were able to keep him contained. Was there a change in philosophy or a change of approach, or was just things were going your way tonight?
I like we said earlier, just the ability to pick up, pressure them, their whole team, not just him, but just trying to make them work. I think more than anything else, like we've talked about a lot here, just the effort and energy that we put into it and the ability to get the stops was a big part.
It looked like on defense you guys were switching more, denying the post better. Just what kind of changes did you make between game 2 and game 3 to tighten things up on that end?
Again, just coming back, this is going to be a lot about coming in and playing hard and doing the right things game after game. It's going to be a battle. Like that's what. Okay, so we just won game 3. Okay, they won games 1 and 2. We have a game 4 coming up here very quickly. We have to be ready to play. We did things very well tonight. We are going to have to do that again.
Eric Name, ESPN Milwaukee. We talked about that first quarter period when you take Giannis off in the first 2 games and you guys struggle. What did it mean to close this game out when he picks up his 5th foul and you guys are still able to close it out without him?
Well, that's a big part of, talking about starts. I know you're talking about closing it out down the 4th, but I'll backtrack a little bit to the early in the game is that we've talked about the start of the game, and my confusion when everybody brings that up is when does the start of the game begin and end, right? Because if we're talking about the whole first quarter, well, then you're right. Yeah, we've struggled closing out those first quarters. If we're talking about the first 6 minutes, well, we're right there. And so what I would say is we've done a nice job, like especially tonight. The start of the game, the end of the first quarter the score was great, okay? That having been said, it was just a continued progression of everybody that stepped on the floor being able to contribute when they came in and not having a lull. And so I think a lot of guys, like we said earlier, contributed. And so when he picked up that 5th foul, we were confident that we could continue to go out and execute, and we did.
Gennaro Armas, AP again. Why the switch to Malcolm, and how much did you think that contributed to that your first quarter there?
I definitely think that it helped a little bit, but again, in regards to starts of games, they haven't been completely. The literal first 6 minutes haven't been completely that bad. There have been a couple of plays or stretches that we haven't liked, and as evidenced by in the first 2 games in the first quarters, 8 and 7 turnovers respectively, and tonight we have 9 for the game. Right, that's huge in terms of taking care of the ball and getting a quality possession as often as possible. So with Malcolm, I think he brings several different things. He can handle the ball. He's done that at different points throughout the series. Confidence in terms of being able to attack. I think he had a couple of turnovers, but nothing that we can't control, and we want to make sure we take care of the ball. And then another guy he didn't shoot it great, but another guy that's capable of knocking shots down.
Eric Name, ESPN Milwaukee. In the past, you guys have always relied on Chris to close out games, and this series he's just been so solid. Do you feel like he's taken another step this postseason? Has he gotten even better in those spots?
I think Chris has played very well in this series, and so the answer, I think he's done a great job in terms of, how he's prepared. Even in games 1 and 2, I think he's played very well on both ends of the floor. Again, we'll always harp about different things that we can do better defensively, offensively. He's not exempt from that, but he's to this point he's played very well, and we'll anticipate him continuing to do that. But in terms of closing games, Chris, Giannis, Bled, Jabari, they're all more than capable.